Ever wondered how fighter aces in World War II managed to hit a darting enemy plane while flying hundreds of miles an hour in an open sky with no radar lock and no computer-assisted targeting? Here's the twist. They did it using a method so effective, modern pilots and even AI-driven systems still can't fully replicate it. This isn't nostalgia. It's a reminder that pure human instinct, sharpened by practice and geometry, once ruled the skies, and in some ways still does. Welcome to the Forgotten War Fronts, where lost combat wisdom gets a second life. Today we're diving into a skill that's both art and science, the deflection shooting method. The secret that made legends out of pilots and continues to outsmart digital systems even in 2025. In the chaos of a dogfight, aiming at your target was the rookie mistake. The real masters knew you had to lead your shot, to aim not where the enemy is, but where they will be. That technique was called deflection shooting, and it turned the sky into a deadly geometry problem. Instead of relying on sensors or software, World War II pilots used nothing but their eyes, timing, and raw instinct. They calculated speed, distance, and direction in a split second. Every trigger pull was a gamble, but the greats made it look like art. They called it Kentucky windage in the sky, an old gunslinger's trick reimagined for aerial combat. It wasn't about math on a clipboard. It was about feel, knowing when to fire half a second before your target crossed the crosshairs so your bullets and their flight path met at the same instant. And here's the wild part. Even with today's advanced targeting systems, pilots still train with this exact principle. Because when sensors fail, when computers lag, the old-school lead shot still delivers. Aerial combat was chess played at 400 miles per hour. To survive, pilots mastered pursuit curves, patterns of attack that determined whether you'd score a hit or go home smoking. The lag pursuit technique was one of the smartest, you know. Instead of chasing an enemy directly, a pilot would angle slightly behind and below, keeping the target's movement predictable. It made aiming smoother and let the gun sight stay stable. On the other hand, the pure pursuit, flying straight at the target, looked cool, but often failed. The faster you turned, the more likely your enemy slipped out of view. To get the lead right, pilots use visual cues: the size of the enemy's wings, the tilt of the horizon, the shrinking or growing of a silhouette. A Messerschmitt at 200 yards looked just so big through the gun sight, and a half second's worth of trigger time could decide who lived. It wasn't random guessing. It was applied geometry executed through intuition. The greatest aces, from the Pacific to the European front, learned to read the air like musicians read sheet music. Here's what the textbooks miss. This kind of precision wasn't born in classrooms. It came from muscle memory and mental maps forged through thousands of flight hours. World War II pilots didn't just practice shooting. They practiced seeing. Their brains were rewired to anticipate motion, to sense acceleration, to know instinctively how far to lead a target. Over time, that training became subconscious. They developed what combat instructors called the feel for the fight, an almost supernatural awareness of where an enemy was going before they even moved. Today's fighter pilots still chase that state. Even with all the tech in the cockpit, that human instinct remains irreplaceable. Back then, simulators were crude, just mechanical gunnery trainers and moving models. But they worked. They taught rhythm, timing, and control. The body learned faster than the mind. The real trick wasn't the gun sight, it was situational awareness. Pilots learned to think in 3 dimensions, predicting enemy intent before the first burst of fire. The best aces knew when to break off, when to roll inverted, when to use the sun or clouds to disappear. Teamwork made it even deadlier. Wingmen would coordinate attacks, forcing enemies into predictable escape patterns, right into a partner's gun sight. The communication, the trust, the split-second coordination, it was human computing at its finest. And, well, let's not overlook the psychological edge. You see, confidence, it killed hesitation. Aggression, once tempered by control, made pilots lethal. They didn't just aim with skill, they aimed with certainty. Fast forward to the year 2025. We've got laser-guided missiles, AI-assisted targeting, and heads-up displays that calculate trajectories in real time. Yet, modern flight schools still teach deflection shooting. Why? Because, every system has lag, every computer has limits, and in close-range combat or emergency failure, instinct wins. Those same principles are used in esports, in marksmanship, even in sports like baseball or basketball, where leading your shot, predicting motion, and feeling timing are key. It's the same neural wiring that World War II pilots trained to perfection. When a gamer prefires an opponent in a shooter or a quarterback throws to where the receiver will be, that's deflection shooting reborn. The technology may evolve, but the geometry of timing and motion remains eternal. The lesson? Human intuition, once fine-tuned by relentless practice, can outperform machines. The forgotten aiming hacks of World War II weren't just clever. They were a masterclass in merging instinct with science. So next time you see a sleek jet or play a flight sim, remember, behind every pixel-perfect aim lies an 80-year-old secret carved in the clouds by the greatest flyers who ever lived. If you love uncovering hidden tactics and untold brilliance from the world's forgotten battlefronts, make sure to subscribe, like and share. Because the past still has a few tricks to teach the future, and here we make sure they're never forgotten.